This is the Llano S850 wireless video transmission device. It can wirelessly transmit video in 1080p from a transmitter to a receiver. Now it does so in a very different way. So I have used wireless video transmitters before, but this one is unique because of that USB-C input on the transmitter side. So if you'd like to learn more about the Llano S850 and what it can be used for and how I would use it, well, keep watching because you're watching Blue Collar Guy. Okay, we're back. So today we're talking about the Llano S850 and I've already got it hooked up. So I am going to show you though what you get in the box. So we're going to go to the downward shot and I'm going to show you how I got it hooked up and I'm going to show you what you get in the box so that you have an idea. Okay, so I've already got it out of the box and I'm using it, but this is what the box looks like on the cover. And of course it was made in China and this particular one was in gray. So you can get it in black or you can get it in gray. So this is what it looks like. And here is the warranty and their website information right here. And I'm just going to try and get that so you can read it a little easier. So that's the information there. And it comes where you can separate it in the middle. It's very small. When you see it being used, you're going to be very impressed actually. And it's under $100. I know that's crazy for a wireless video transmitter, but it does do the job. I've been testing it. This is one of their USB-C connectors and it's like an extension. So if it can't plug directly into your phone or your computer, then you can use this and then you'll have that extra reach. It also comes with a very tiny HDMI cable which goes on the other side, and I'm gonna just pull that into view here. So I'm using it right now. I've got it hooked up to a different HDMI cable because I'm running it through a video switcher, but this is what it looks like. And it's quite an interesting little device. Now these little buttons here for pairing and portrait and landscape mode, and you can switch that just by clicking this and then it'll flip it around. And I'm going to show you what that looks like too. So I'm just going to call it up right now. And there it is. I'm still in the corner. Good. And this is what it looks like. So I'm actually transmitting from my other studio, which is an OBS studio. So this is a studio that I use for, I have a video switcher and I use that type of recording system. And on my other studio, I use an OBS system, which that type of system is when you use your computer as your video switcher. And you can do some creative things with that as well. And that's what the screen looks like in OBS. So when you're looking at that screen right now, that's what it looks like. And if you look at that little silver thing plugged into the computer, well, that's the transmitter. And that's what it looks like when it's plugged in. Now the transmitter does not require any power. It uses the USB-C input as the power source. But the receiver does require that you give it some power. So it does require a power cable and it comes with one, so just so that you know, and you can plug that in and it will power this device. So I'm just going to go back to here so you can see that. So this is what this is the power cable that comes into here. Now I'm just using my own 5-volt power. Don't use what I refer to as fast charging, like a 100-watt cable. Don't plug one of those in there. Just plug in a regular power brick, and because you don't want to cook it. So that's what I would recommend using on these. Some of them are okay when you do that, but I don't recommend it for something like this because it can potentially damage the electronics. This particular receiver, you can pair it with the buttons. It's got one on the transmitter and one over here. So if I click on this, and I'm just going to demonstrate, so I'm going to go back to the other shot, and now I'm going to call up another window. So now you can see this. So if I click on this, you see how it just kind of flipped everything sideways? Well, that would be portrait mode. And then if I click it again, now I think I'm on, am I upside down? No, I'm facing the other way. It's like a mirror image. And now we're back to normal. So that can also change that. So if you're filming in portrait mode, let's say you're doing a TikTok or something like that from your phone, you can use it for that. So I've been testing this for a while now. I always test things very thoroughly when I'm using them. And I was a little bit skeptical of this device at first because of the latency claims, because they said that it had a very low latency. And I can tell you that the latency on this is actually quite good. So it's, you know, nothing is what I would refer to as zero latency. I'm just going to go back to me for a quick sec and we're going to talk about latency. Okay. So I'm just gonna take off the other screen. Okay, so when it comes to wireless video transmission, you're going to have some latency. The more expensive systems will have a very small amount of latency, and the cheaper systems will usually have quite a bit of latency, meaning that it will be a huge delay from the time it is transmitted to the time that it is received. I can tell you that this thing really impressed me with the amount of latency that it had. Now, it did have some, but it was very negligible. As a matter of fact, some people have actually used this for gaming, if you can believe that. So when gamers are gaming and they want to plug their phone and they want to broadcast it to their TV, latency is very important, especially when you're using the controls on your phone and you want to make sure that what's being transmitted on the screen, because if you have to dodge something or shoot something or whatever, you want to make sure that the reaction is going to keep up with what you're doing. And people are using it for that. Now, is it perfect? No, nothing is going to be perfect, especially when you're dealing with wireless video transmission. There's always going to be a delay from the time it's transmitted from the time it's received. You know, it's got to go through the air, be decoded, and then rebroadcast. But it does pretty good, especially for something that costs less than $100. Now, the one thing I'd like to point out is that you are limited on what you can broadcast from. So you can't plug this into a, let's say, micro HDMI output from your camera. Say you wanted to wirelessly broadcast from your streaming box to a TV. You can't use it for that because it's using a USB-C on the other end. It is really meant for cell phones, computers, that sort of thing. So it needs to have an operating system of either Mac or it's going to need Windows, or you're going to need some kind of Android. Now, I got some good news on the receiver. So the receiver can also do receiving even without the transmitter. That's right. So if the transmitter is not transmitting, you can still mirrorcast right to the receiver itself. But that involves another step. So you do have to scan a QR code and go that route, but it does work for that. I have a Google Pixel phone. And I did find, and I have to be honest, that the Google phones are not compatible with this system. It doesn't work with it. I tried. As a matter of fact, I even tried with my Google Pixel tablet, and it didn't work with that either. But if I had had a Samsung phone or an Apple phone or any other type of phone other than a Google phone, it would have been just fine. Now, the reason why it doesn't work is that Google has blocked this from working. So it's not that this isn't trying to cooperate with my phone, it's that Google won't allow it. So it's kind of a Google block, not a device block. So it's not the fault of the Llano S850, it's the fault of my phone. So if I want to mirrorcast from my phone, if I have a Google TV, it wants me to use that way instead. Now, I will say that when I do it that way, there's actually more of a delay. In other words, there's more latency when I do it that way than there is when I use the computer and go right through here. So that's one of the things that impressed me, is it had lower latency than when I used the Mirrorcast through the Google. I know, right? Is this device worth $100? Yeah. As a matter of fact, I think I've seen it even cheaper than that on sale. And if I get a coupon code, I'm going to pass it on to you. Now, I do need to disclose that they did send me out this for the purposes of review and testing, so I received this at no charge. However, they did not pay for the production of this video, and I don't even get a commission if you buy one. So I'm not an affiliate, I'm not an Amazon affiliate, so if you were to get one of these, I don't get a commission on it. I don't want a commission. I just tested it because I thought it was kind of cool, and they said, well, it has very low latency. I didn't believe them. I said, well, send it out, I'll test it, and sure enough, it did have very low latency. So now, does it have zero latency? No, it doesn't have zero latency. Very small amount of latency, which was still very impressive. Now, you have to keep in mind that when you go with a DJI wireless system or a Hollyland system, these are $600, $700, $800. They're very expensive. Now, the one that I have, the one that I use, is made by Shimble, and it is an HDMI to HDMI, so I will be using that for different uses, of course, so it's still going to come in handy for that. But the latency from that to here is very similar. So that's what really impressed me. And the size of this thing is very tiny. So I'm going to disconnect it and just show you how small it is when you compare it to one of the regular systems. Like right now, it's at 45, and it has cooled down since then. So I want to let you know that, and I'm just going to take this off. I just want to let you know that it probably gets up around that 60 degrees Celsius mark, because when I took it out, it was quite warm. And that's not the greatest thing, but if it doesn't go over 60, you're good. So anything from, 65-ish and lower is safe. Anything more than that would become what I would consider a potential fire hazard. It does get warm, but it's not that warm. Like, it's not dangerously warm. And that's how big it is. So one of the reasons why it does get warm is because of how small and compact it is, and it even has this really cool carry handle, so you could literally take this anywhere. And if you weren't using it for super extended amounts of time, this is going to be a very, very handy little tool. Now for me, it's going to come in handy for certain shots. So if I'm in my studio and I need to broadcast something from my OBS studio over to here, that's pretty cool. I can actually broadcast from one system over to another system just using that little device. Now, I'm going to show you what the other one looks like. Give you an idea of the size difference in box. We're talking, it's not small. One of the receivers for the Shimble, and this is without the battery, is bigger than the whole unit of this one. Yeah, that's crazy, I know. This uses HDMI to HDMI, and this uses USB-C to HDMI. So this is going to be very handy in my particular toolbox, because I can transmit from my computer using that USB-C over to my video switcher. So what are my thoughts on this wireless video transmission device? It does exactly what they say that it does. It is plug and play. There's a screen prompt that will come on your television set when you're pairing them up. It's very compact, and it's got the pairing buttons, and you can even change the modes, like I just showed you how you can change from portrait to landscape, and that's kind of handy too. Plus it does the mirror image thing too. And it also came with this nice adapter, which, by the way, if I was to buy this separately, would probably run me $14 to $20, because when you need to get these little tiny cables, they cost quite a bit of money. And this is actually a good size, because I plug in things like wireless microphones and things like that to my action cameras, and this is going to come in handy because this is a communication cable as well as a power cable. It is, these are hard to find sometimes. So when you take this into account, it almost makes it worth getting this, because try to find something like that. Even comes with this very short HDMI cable, and as I said before, things like this are hard to find. I can use this when I'm hooking up a monitor to my camera even, things like that. I'm going to have more uses for these things than this is for. Try to find a cable that long that's HDMI. They end up charging you more for, unique lengths like this than they do when you get the longer ones, and sometimes you don't want those. So what I'm trying to say is that the accessories that it comes with are just as valuable to me as the device itself. It's not made out of metal, it's made out of plastic, and it isn't the kind of thing that I would consider to be weatherproof or anything like that. So the shim ball is made out of metal, but it does look like for occasional use. So if you're doing YouTube videos, you're not going to use wireless video transmitters all of the time. You're just going to be using them for occasional use. This isn't a commercial device, but for YouTube, it's plenty good enough in my opinion, because I don't use stuff like this all of the time. So would I recommend this? Yes, I would recommend it, as long as you weren't using it all of the time. It's not for commercial use. Is it good enough for YouTube? Absolutely, it is good enough for YouTube. It transmits in 1080p. You've seen the resolution. I had no issue hooking it up. It is plug and play, which is nice. I plug it into the computer, I plug the receiver in, and it just works. It's unfortunate that it doesn't work with the Google Pixel phone, but it's not their fault. It's the Google operating system that blocks it. I have seen these, I think, for $69, which is very inexpensive for a wireless video transmission device. When you're looking at the commercial units, they're $600, $700, $800. They're very expensive. My Shimbo system was about almost $200. So, that's very, very inexpensive. The way they've packaged it and the way they've got everything combined is kind of clever in that everything just kind of sticks together. You've got a little carry handle. You can put that in your backpack. It's not going to add any weight. It's very light. So I tested this device for a little over a week and I never had any issues with it. Every time that I hooked it up, it ended up pairing up very easily and very quickly. The screen will do this thing where it kind of shrinks in a little bit and then it expands again, and that tells you that it is linked up with the receiver. It's kind of cool the way that works. It just kind of goes, it kind of shrinks in and then goes back like this, and then you know that it's paired. And it does it very, very quickly. A lot of people are going to appreciate the simplicity of that. I've also got another laptop that I'm going to be connecting using this device when I'm dealing with coding and things like that. Because I've been getting into Python scripting and HTML and JavaScript and all that other good stuff, if I want to see this on a bigger screen, then I'm going to transmit that from my laptop over to my larger TV so I can get a better look at what I'm working at. And I can also do my testing and things like that on a bigger screen to see how it looks. So it does have a lot of practical use cases. So what would I like to see Llano do on their next generation of this type of device? Well, I would like to see a USB-C and an HDMI input. That would be really cool if you had the option of one or the other. The other thing that I would like to see is make it out of aluminum instead of plastic. And the reason why I would recommend that is because it's going to offer RF shielding on any outside interference, and it's also going to make it a lot more durable. As far as the way it is, like the form factor of it, I really like that. It is very well done. The only thing that I would probably add is a click. So probably one of those hinge clicks here and one here so that it locks in when you're putting them together, because they're not locked in when I just go like this. But they do fit good. It's not going to fall out. I was just recommending that just so that it's more secure if it's bouncing around a bag or that sort of thing. Other than that, I don't really have a lot of bad things to say about this. I was very, very impressed with it, and I didn't have high expectations when I received it. That's it for this video. I'd really like to thank Llano for sending me out the S850. And I sure hope that they make an S860. I'd be pretty excited to test that out. So if you're a gamer and you want to do some live streaming and you want to do some wireless video transmission, you should check out the S850. It might be something that's very useful for you. Take care, be safe at work, and I will see you at the next video. Bye.